Okay, so can you please buy my book? I'd appreciate it. I appreciate the support. Thank you. I'll leave a link in the description box below. All right. Also, all this information is from my biochemistry textbook. Again, this is another episode in how fluoride can negatively impact our bodies. And this episode is focused on the mitochondria, specifically the citric acid cycle. So the end product of glycolysis, which I went over in a previous video in this series, is pyruvate. Now, pyruvate can enter the mitochondria, and when it enters the mitochondria, it can enter the citric acid cycle. And the citric acid cycle is this 9-enzyme reaction, and it's called a cycle because the last product in the reaction series is also the starting product for the reaction series. Okay, so anyways, pyruvate is the end product of glycolysis. It enters the mitochondria, and when it enters the mitochondria, it can be converted to acetyl-CoA. And acetyl-CoA is the starting substrate in the citric acid cycle. Okay, but arsenic, so this is everything here in red is pretty much a toxin for the citric acid cycle that I found in my textbook. And arsenic can interfere with the conversion of pyruvate to acetyl-CoA. This reaction also requires vitamin B1, vitamin B2, vitamin B3, vitamin B5, calcium, and insulin. So everything that is required for the citric acid cycle is in blue. Okay, so once acetyl-CoA enters the citric acid cycle, it just follows through this 9-step reaction. And at reaction 3, we have fluoroacetate. So this is our fluoride atom, and it interferes with enzyme 3. So enzyme 3 and enzyme 2 are actually the same enzyme. They have 2-step function in the citric acid cycle, and this reaction requires water. And then we go to reaction 4. Byproduct is carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide can actually build up in the mitochondria, and at which point it can become toxic to the mitochondria. So this is in red. As it's a natural byproduct, but if it's not cleared, it can become toxic to the mitochondria. So enzyme 4 in the citric acid cycle, again, you can just look at the board, but I'll go through it. Calcium, niacin, oxygen, phosphate, magnesium, or manganese. So reaction enzyme 4 in the citric acid cycle needs all these in blue. And I want to point out here that it needs oxygen. Now, the mitochondria is an aerobic organelle in our body. So this is aerobic respiration. It requires oxygen to function. If there's not enough oxygen in the mitochondria, the citric acid cycle and the electron transport chain do not function. And again, in my previous video, I illustrated how the thyroid hormones are critical for bringing oxygen to the cells. And again, fluoride can negatively impact the function and the production of thyroid hormones, at which point it could negatively impact mitochondria by lowering the availability of oxygen to the cells. And again, reaction 4 here, or enzyme 4, requires oxygen. And reaction 5 also requires oxygen, niacin, and calcium. And again, we have another arsenic atom that can bind to enzyme 5, and we have another byproduct of carbon dioxide. And again, carbon dioxide can become toxic to the mitochondria if it's not cleared out. And enzyme 6 requires another phosphate. Enzyme 7, again, it requires another oxygen, again, which is critical for proper thyroid function, riboflavin and CoQ10. Enzyme 8 requires water. And then finally, we have enzyme 9, the final step in the citric acid cycle. And that requires a niacin and a thyroid hormone, triiodothyronine. So you can see how fluoride, again, can negatively impact our health by interfering with mitochondria function directly by binding to enzyme 3, as well as potentially negatively impacting our body's ability to bring oxygen to the organelle, which is critical for proper function. And finally, we also require an actual triiodothyronine hormone for enzyme 9 to function properly.